Hi, it's Lisa here from Soul to Soul Yoga. In this short 10-minute tutorial, little mini class, we're going to do some of my favorite hip stretches. Hips are one of the areas that get really tight. Now, in 10 minutes, you can do a few stretches with a few holds, but really for openness in the body, we need an all over practice. But for today, we're just going to do some nice, gentle, hopefully all level stretches that make your hips feel a little bit more open, but see the longer classes for a bit more depth. We're going to start on hands and knees. So you want to have your fingers spread and your shoulders over your elbows. We'll do some cat-cows just to warm up into the pelvis area. So cat-cow is moving the spine. Inhale, the belly moves towards the ground. Lift your chest, lift your tailbone, take a look up. You can always grab padding under the knees or the wrists. Exhale, round and down, push the floor away and tuck your chin, tuck your pelvis right under. Inhale up. Exhale down. Keep going like this in your own time with the breath. Letting it all be calm, really thinking about opening through the hip flexors, moving through the pelvis. Wonderful. And then we're going to come to sit. Let's take the knees wide, sit your bottom back. Take your knees as wide as you can. We'll make this a really energizing child's pose extended. And you can have your knees further together, but if you're more open in the inner thighs, take them wide, even off the mat. Reach your arms forward, forehead to the floor, or onto a block or a pillow. And then holding it here, going heavy. Let your pelvis be heavy towards the heels. Armpits move down towards the ground. Breathing into the lower back and the ribs. Let's take a few more breaths here. Really let go. Wonderful. And then slowly come up. Bring your knees back together and come back up. Take one leg behind and stretch, and the other leg. Lovely. Coming into a lunge. So bringing your hands to the left side of the mat, the right foot comes towards the right side of the mat. You may want to block. You could use a cushion to take your hands on. If you have wrist issues, you could be on your knuckles. You want to try to have your foot, your ankle and your knee in line, if possible. And if you're a bit more open in the hips, you could turn the toes, the right toes out to the right. Now lengthen through the lower back so you're kind of not slumping down. And if that means taking some height, do that. And keep the back leg nice and engaged by pushing down through the top of the back foot. And then we're going to lift the chest and hold this for a few breaths. Wonderful stretch for this hip flexor. And also many of you may be feeling it in the right hamstring too, because it also opens up through there. Lizard stretch. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to come straight from here into pigeon pose. Anyone with hip or knee issues might want to skip this or look up thread the needle pose on the back, which is part of my other tutorials. But if you're okay, we're going to pull back, just stretch that back front leg for a moment. So bow down towards the front leg, pull the right toes towards the knee. So you feel that stretch in the back of the right hamstring. And then we're going to come into pigeon pose on the right side. So bring your right knee towards the right side of the mat and the right foot comes in towards the left hip flexor. You may need something wedged underneath your right bum cheek to create height, and then lengthen through the back leg. Lift your chest and come down. And again, either stay fairly high or you might be able to come all the way. If this hurts the knee, please come out of it or think about adjusting this foot further back towards the hip flexor. Or if you're a bit more supple and you're not feeling any stretch, bring that foot further forwards, which really gets into the hamstring and the right hip. Okay, and I'm going to hold this for a few breaths. So it can be quite an intense stretch, which is good as long as there's no injury or pain. It's just an intense stretch. Breathe into it. Let yourself go. Wonderful. Just another breath. And then we're going to slowly come up. You could hold these, of course, as long as you like. You could pause the video if you want to hold it for a few minutes, yin style, up to you. Tuck the back toes and come back to hands and knees. And then again, just stretch the legs out behind you, just to release, give everything a jiggle. Other side, left foot forward and the right knee back. You could always have padding underneath the knee. Take the left foot so that it's slightly pointed out, if possible, or straight forwards. And having the ankle underneath the knee, hands come on the inside of the left foot. Having some height through a block or some cushions if you need it, square your hips, so pulling the right hip down, left hip, and then lengthen through the spine, softening your shoulders. Engage the back leg a little bit by pushing down through the back foot and breathe. Oh. So especially if you're a little tighter in the front of the hips, or if you sit a lot, or even if you're very active or drive, tend to get quite a lot of stiffness in the front of the hip flexors, which is the front of the pelvis. So stretching this area can feel really good, but maybe quite intense. So just always taking it easy, especially if you're new to the practice. Let's take another couple here before we take that little stretch in the front of the left foot, left leg, pulling back. Okay, pull the toes towards the knee. Now I'm quite supple in the leg, so you might be higher, you might have to have some blocks, or pull the hips so that they're square and bow down towards the front leg. Breathing deeply. Wonderful. And then into that pigeon pose. So the left knee moves forwards, the right leg back, and move your left foot so that it's in line with the right hip flexor, the front of the pelvis, or a little bit further forwards. Adjust to suit your body. Remember, you can have something underneath that bum cheek if you need to, or skip it all together. Go on your back, do figure of four stretch. Inhale, lengthen spine, square hips, and make yourself come a little lower if possible. Have blocks, have cushions, have bolsters, and we'll hold this for a few breaths. Always returning to that slow, wonderful yogic breath right into the belly, filling the body, using it to nourish us, using it to vitalize us and to relax us. Just a couple more here. And then we're going to slowly come up, tuck the back toe and come back onto hands and knees. Now, your choice, hands and knees, stretch the legs out, or maybe if you're able to, come into a little downward dog, lifting the hips and paddling out the feet. Wonderful. And then we're going to come down onto our back and we're going to finish with Supta Baddha Konasana. So recline cobbler pose. As I said, this is just a short with just a few little hip stretches. There's tons, but this is one of my favorites. You could use a bolster under the back or a cushion. Take your feet together, knees to the side, and just let your knees flop out to the side. You could have some cushioning under the knees, feet a little closer or further away from you, hands on your belly down, close your eyes. We're just going to take some deep breaths. Let's allow the inner thighs to relax. Allow the knees to become heavy. Softening through your shoulders. Breathing deeply into your tummy. In this wonderfully opening pose. And again, we're just going to hold this for a minute or so, but you could hold it for longer. You could stay here doing your breathing practices. You could meditate. You could just allow yourself to hold it for just a breath or two, your choice. But the longer we hold something, the more we can allow the body to open up, just letting it go. Wonderful. Bring the knees back together. Bring the soles of the feet onto the floor, close to the bum, hands down by the side of the body. Peel your bum up and come up into a little bridge. Nothing too much effort, really just to lengthen out through the front of the hips, to squeeze your buttocks, so really strengthening into those areas that we've just stretched. And just a few breaths here. And slowly release. Wonderful. Knees to chest. Give yourself a little hug. And we can roll a little bit over your lower back. Roll to one side. And then when you're ready, come up nice and carefully, push yourself to sit. So just 5 little poses there to hopefully stretch into different areas of the hips. There's tons more. See my other shorts or longer classes if you want to explore this a little bit more. Hope you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.